This story is based on true events. Names have been changed to protect privacy. The Ouija board. A haunting incident in school. This haunting incident took place in an undisclosed school in Southeast Asia in the 90s. I grew up in Southeast Asia, into a Catholic family. My grandmother was brought up by Catholic nuns in an orphanage in a small town before the Japanese occupation. As one can imagine life in the 1940s, in British-occupied land, Catholic missionaries ran most of the orphanages and schools, so my grandmother was part of the system. In the town where I grew up, it had shaped our education system and schools. I was sent to an all-girls Catholic school, where hanging the crucifix in every classroom is mandatory even up to this day. It was also common to have a prayer room and a compulsory rosary prayer every day before classes start. To avoid scolding from the nun in charge, I had no choice but to remember my rosary every day. I placed it inside my uniform pocket before stepping out of the house. So do hundreds of other girls who had the same fate. As the school was open to anyone from different backgrounds and religions, not all the girls were Catholics. While waiting for the Catholic girls to finish their rosary prayer, they were free to do as they pleased, as long as they did not break any school rules. So, some girls brought board games with them for this session. My sister and I had gone to the same school. There was a girl named Penny. She was a senior in school and also my sister's classmate. She had the sophistication that neither of us had. She was a trendsetter, as she had often received gifts from her cousins in Hong Kong. The type that was hard to find in a small town like ours. I remember, at first, she would bring to school with her simpler toys like the slinky or the yo-yo. Gradually, those were upgraded and replaced into more sophisticated games like Uno cards or the Monopoly. Coming from a small town, not everyone had privilege like Penny. When we saw something like that, everyone was tempted to get our hands on it. The Catholic girls were especially jealous. While they were stuck at the prayer room, repeating Hail Marys every day, the other girls had the freedom to play. It was during one afternoon, after the daily rosary session, my sister, let us call her Lydia. She was a school prefect. She had made her way around school to check if students were already making their way to class. She noticed some students gathering at a nearby table beside the water cooler. Everyone was eerily quiet, their eyes fixated at the board placed on the table. As she got closer to the group, what she saw next was nothing like she had ever seen before. Right in front of her, a pencil, just floating midair. Her mind racing.
Is someone doing a magic trick? Why is nobody clapping or cheering?
She could not believe her eyes.
Am I hallucinating?
After a second or two, it finally dawned on her as she thought.
Oh my god, I don't think it's a trick.
And what made it worse was that she could hear everyone gasping in horror while staring at the floating pencil. She knew immediately that they had witnessed the same thing. She wanted to run, but her legs did the opposite. Her knees were weak, and the next thing she knew, she had reached out for her pocket, where the rosary was, and started reciting the Hail Mary, while clutching it as tightly as she could. The one that she thought was a waste of time just a few minutes ago. Maybe it was an instinct that something unearthly had just taken place, and that praying could somewhat protect her. She had no idea from what yet. And just as she had started to pray, the pencil dropped. She lingered on a bit longer, not entirely sure of what she should be doing at that moment. Everything happened so fast, yet long enough to have etched into her memory the vision of the pencil floating. As soon as the pencil dropped, she could hear Penny asking,
"Why did the pencil drop?"
while having her hands on an arrow plate placed on the board. As soon as she had asked the question, it spelled pray. Lydia's reaction to the answer were as shocking as witnessing the pencil floating just a few seconds ago. Penny continued to ask the crowd,
"Is someone praying?"
People started looking around, and that was when they saw my sister. They had not noticed her presence before. They knew what they had to do, so they packed everything and left. Just as they were leaving, my sister asked Penny,
"What was that thing that you were playing?"
She answered,
"It's called Ouija board. My cousin from Hong Kong came to visit. She brought it with her so I could try it out. We can summon spirits and ask anything we like with this. You should join us."
That evening at the dinner table, where the family was gathered, Lydia told us the whole story about what had happened. She insisted that the pencil really did float. Her exact words were,
"I saw the pencil floating up to my eyes and I swear no one was holding it."
The only thing my parents did was to ask us to stay far away from the Ouija board. Even though their reaction seemed only lukewarm, I could sense that they took it very seriously. That evening after dinner, my mom made a call to her close friend, Auntie Helen. Our family was part of a tight-knit Catholic community in town. We had Sunday gatherings every week after church, where we did praise and worship, followed by Bible studies, and participated in sharing sessions, where people would share their problems with the entire community and had group prayers. Growing up, we spent a lot of time at Auntie Helen's house before she moved into the neighboring town. Because they were true to their religion, they did not fall into the weird category by any definition. To explain myself, growing up Catholic, one could get the chance to observe the many hypocrisies in our community. There are the ones who would answer phone calls with,
"God bless,"
only to come up with the lamest excuse when asked for help. Like,
"Oh, it's raining today. I don't think my car would run well."
when asked for a lift, despite expecting only the most minimum reciprocity. Or spitting out the tuna sandwich, which someone had carefully prepared after Bible studies on Friday, thinking that it was chicken sandwich. Because it was better to refrain from eating meat on Fridays than it was to be rude to the host. Those were just some of the more forgiving examples. But Auntie Helen and her family would not make a big fuss about eating chicken on Fridays. There are obviously more important issues at hand. The Catholic parish in town would often invite them to participate in pray-over sessions. At the mildest form, a pray-over session could mean praying for a teenager who could not get along with his or her parents. At the most severe case, praying over someone with demonic possession. Of course, in Catholicism, only certified priests can legally perform exorcism. The uncertified ones would be at the sideline, saying prayers without direct interaction. Auntie Helen and her husband had the roles of sideliners. They attended seminars for their roles. Very often, we would hear stories about some severe cases from them. Sometimes, I had problem sleeping or going to the toilet alone at night after hearing these stories. One that I remember vividly was the story of a possessed woman. Allegedly, after coming back from a tour in the neighboring country, where she was thought to have been possessed by the spirit of a dancer. According to her husband, she had either taken or done something strictly prohibited while visiting a sacred temple. When she was possessed, she would dance sometimes for several hours. A traditional dance that she had never done before. When my mom mentioned the Ouija board to Auntie Helen, she immediately knew where the conversation was heading. She warned my mom that we should all stay away from it, because we can never know what type of spirits we would end up interacting with. We all took the advice, just another list of things to avoid as Catholics. And life went on as usual, but not for Lydia. At first, I did not think too much of it. As I could recall, it all started when one day, while I was watching TV and doing homework at the same time, in the living room, Lydia, who was peeling potatoes behind in the kitchen, came running with a panicked look on her face asking,
Hey, did you call me?
I said.
No. I never went behind. I was here watching TV and doing my homework.
She then proceeded to ask,
Where is Vincent?
Who, by the way, is our brother. I answered.
He's upstairs playing Doom.
The free game that came on a CD with Windows 95 at the time. She then frantically told me,
I heard someone calling my name, Lydia, from behind, like right next to my ears. I thought it was you. Are you sure it wasn't you?
To be honest, I was really frightened, not so much as to what she had just told me, or knowing what she had just experienced, but by her behavior. I had not seen my sister acting like that. She had always been level-headed, who believed in reality, and not in something that could not be explained. So, I prodded.
It was a girl's voice? Like mine? Was it loud?
Her answer was alarming.
No, it sounded like a man, and it was loud, not like a whisper.
By that time, I thought that she had gone mad. How could she have thought that it was me? Our house was like most typical Southeast Asian houses, on landed property, where it is common to have a wet kitchen, outdoor. We had a playground right behind our house, separated only by a wire fence. So I then told her,
It must be the grass cutter. I saw him talking to Vincent once to ask if we needed our grass trimmed.
She said.
Yes, I thought so too, but when I turned back, there was no one.
A desperate look on her face. Perhaps trying to pacify myself, I tried giving her another possible scenario, that it was the neighbor calling her. We knew that was a lie, because they were younger boys, who would only call out for Vincent. I could not come up with anything better. Afterwards, I had to accompany her behind to peel the potatoes. Until today, I do not know if she had experienced anything else in between that, and what was about to happen next. All I remember was that she had become jumpy and seemed more alert. I thought that she was slowly losing her mind. As I had experienced nothing like she had, I could not even begin to imagine and empathize with her. I thought that after seeing the pencil floating, she had somewhat lost it. The night that it happened, our parents had to go for a dinner party, and would be home late. As it was a Friday night, they gave us permission to hang out in the master bedroom upstairs, where we get to watch TV, in an air-conditioned room. I remember going up and making myself comfortable, but have no recollection of anything else, except for what was about to happen next. I must have dozed off when my sister woke me up, holding a pair of scissors in front of my face.
I heard someone in the kitchen,
she said frantically,
"Take this,"
and handed me a pair of scissors. She was holding the kitchen knife and my brother the hammer. For a second, I believed her that there was an intruder. She immediately locked the master bedroom door, as we all stood there in silence, each of us holding a weapon. I put my ears onto the door, trying to listen for any sound coming from downstairs. But there was only silence. I looked at her and said,
I hear nothing. Are you sure? You were in the kitchen and there was someone?
She said,
"Yes, there was someone there,"
almost shouting. At that moment, after all my sleepiness had faded and being fully alert, I somewhat realized that it was the same thing that had happened a few days ago, when she was peeling the potatoes behind in the kitchen. Only this time, it was late into the night and we were all holding onto our weapons. It occurred to me that maybe I should not agitate the person holding a knife by doubting her, so I did not say much. I remember my brother and I were just sitting on the bed, not knowing what to do. Also not wanting to unlock the door to go out and check. By then, my sister was just standing beside the locked door, still holding onto her knife. She finally broke the silence.
"What should we do?"
I said.
We should stay here. If there is someone, the door is locked, and we can just scream if they try breaking down the door.
Almost giving her a reason not to use her knife, I continued.
Mom and Dad would be home soon.
And by luck, not long after that, my parents came home. This time we could clearly hear the doors and grills opening. The familiar sound of the jingling keys never felt so good. We rushed down and told them everything. Obviously, they were alarmed at the sight of us carrying a knife, a pair of scissors and a hammer, as if ready to defend ourselves, a scene I'm sure they had only seen on TV. After checking the house thoroughly and making sure that there was no way that our house had been broken into, we were all convinced that my sister was no longer the same person. The next day from my room upstairs, I could hear my sister crying on the phone while speaking to Auntie Helen. I knew that it was Auntie Helen because earlier that day, my mom had insisted that Lydia speak to Auntie Helen tonight. Apparently, she was no stranger to cases where someone had picked up spirits with them. According to Auntie Helen, on the day that my sister had clutched the rosary to pray, when the Ouija board was used to summon the spirit, it knew and had decided to follow her. I heard my sister repeating a prayer with Auntie Helen over the phone for what seemed like an eternity, but was probably just for a few minutes. After that, she was back to her usual self. The only thing that she complained about was having a back pain ever since. Whether related to the spirit who had been following her around for a week or not, I am not sure. Somehow, we never spoke about it again. It remained a mystery to this day if the same thing had happened to other girls who had played the Ouija board. Apparently, our parents had called up the school and told the principal about the Ouija board the next day that my sister had witnessed a floating pencil. Of course, being a Catholic herself, the principal then issued a ban. I still wonder sometimes, who was the spirit that had followed her around? Why was its voice only always coming from the kitchen? How many of them are out there? Did it have any malicious intent, or was it just lonely? I guess only the lucky ones will never get to find out the answer. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I will be doing a weekly update on my channel, so stay tuned for more.